Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. We're happy to have you here today. Now, we're not bashing Europe. It's just that even though there's a lot to like about it, unfortunately, the bad news just keeps on coming. However, we predicted it in one way or another many years ago, and we keep our followers in the loop on the perspectives you don't get in the main avenues of this sphere. So we've never worn the rose-colored glasses either. It could be said that our previous videos predicting many of the things we're all seeing today were just a bit too much like someone that had a crystal ball. Well, it doesn't take a crystal ball to see what's coming. It just takes a willingness to see the signs and accept them. And that is something that we could always improve on, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears, is the old saying. We're going to get right into the information about Europe. So it looks like Spain is actually going to damage their welcoming reputation even further by pushing ahead with their new 100% property taxes on non-EU citizen property buyers. And after 10 years of Spain's golden visa causing the property market to soar and locals unable to find housing, the government does a 180 and penalizes the foreigner with a 100% tax. So when the Spanish insiders came up with a great plan of enticing people with a visa that if foreign buyers invest in property for 500,000 euros, they receive a 2-year visa. Do you think that had anything to do with that? And now, after the damage is done, those smart investor foreigners are punished with this huge 100% tariff. Well, it appears the foreigner is taking all the responsibility because they invested in property in Spain. Which came first, the foreigner investor or the enticement by the insiders? A classic what came first, the chicken or the egg situation. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Although the situation appears as a bait and switch on the surface, it's actually more of a take your money and run case. Though you could add the phrase, before they come after us with pitchforks. It's just damage control and backpedaling on the part of the insiders as their bubble scheme unravels before everyone's eyes. They get to take it out on and blame the scapegoat, the one that was smart enough to be enticed by that wonderful sounding idea in the first place. And by insiders, it is understood that it includes the commercial interests inside and outside of Spanish government. Everyone that benefits and piles into the best thing since sliced bread is now left holding the bag of their emotions as to how they lost everything. Wow, and looky here, they're also increasing the VAT on short-term rentals and raising taxes on publicly listed real estate investment trusts. So at this point, it's questionable whether all these smart people care whether the chicken or the egg came first. What they do know, however, is that it is a big fat pot of scrambled eggs. Oh well, this property buyer wasn't too happy about Spain's bait and switch. Ah yes, Spanish socialism at work. The Spanish national and local governments make it up as they go along. When I sold my Spanish property 5 years ago, they told me I had to pay extra purchase tax on the original purchase 6 years earlier. Brits, keep away from Spain. They are biting the hand that has fed it. Hasta luego. Maybe not amigos. If Spain is seriously going to impose this 100% tariff on foreign property buyers, there will be other taxes and penalties down the road they will impose. Where does it end? Let's talk about Portugal for a moment. Portugal's criminality is rising. Look at this graph. Now, when we tell you that crime goes up where foreigners flock, we're not just flapping our lips. We mean it. Right here it's saying Porto's crime index exceeds Lisbon's, with theft and scams targeting tourists. We told our followers 5 years ago crime was going to spike in Portugal. Was anyone listening? You be the judge. Be careful and watch where you're at. But some places in Porto have more crime, especially at night along the Douro River. We're not saying that you have to be fearful to go to Portugal, but the fact is crime is going up, and if we keep hearing how safe it is, we can sometimes become complacent and lose our security awareness, and then something bad happens to us. Just be aware there is crime, even though you've been coddled about how safe it is. Woman moves to Spain but is gobsmacked by the cost of living. Wow, what's going on? Are people not doing their homework before they move abroad? If someone doesn't know how much they will be spending when they move abroad, it could really turn ugly for them, especially if they shipped all of their worldly possessions and then find out later they can't live there because it's too expensive. Here is what's happening in most of these cases where people are surprised that rental prices are actually higher than what was peddled to them. We put all of our trust in what the Pied Pipers say, don't we? Remember that song, Dream Weaver? In this case, they flaunt their figures around for countries abroad through their writers on the ground. So let's say in Spain, they advertise you can live on something like 1,574 euros if you're a single person, or 3,260 euros for a family of 4. And then they go on to explain how you can't do that in the U.S. U.S. citizens will find Spain a bargain compared to back home, and their life is so much better. Then the typical person who takes these figures as written in stone moves to Spain and gets, as the title states, gobsmacked. They find out that the way they want to live actually costs that much just in the rent. By the way, have you ever heard of the term gobsmacked before? Me neither. This must be a British lingo. But anyway, it's not an uncommon issue with expats that move abroad to popular countries. And no, let's not get it backwards. These places are not too expensive because they're worth it. They're too expensive because everyone was made to believe that it was the best fantasy they've ever wished for. Portugal has been around for 850 years. What took y'all so long to find out about it? I think our followers know the answer to that one. In countries that are getting lots of tourists and foreign residents, the rents can go up 5 to 10% more in just a few months, and in a year, they can go up by almost 24%. That's wild. Our experience is that those figures happen as soon as you arrive and do not have to take a few months or even a year. Surging rental prices. So in just 2 years, rental prices in Portugal have shot up almost 30% higher. That means that a $1,500 villa touted to you 2 years ago by the RAM is now $1,950. But that's not even completely accurate because their increased percentage is calculated based on the previous year's figure, which was already inflated, so that the actual rate of increase when calculated from the original price locals were paying before the promotion started is more like 200 and 300% higher. Yes, we've seen that with our own eyes. We've been there and done that. You do the math. This is a considerable difference in rent. Where a local family earning, say, 1,000 euros per month was able to pay 300 to 500 euros in rent, now they're being made to pay $1,000 to $2,000 in rent, and that does not compute, my friends. Wouldn't you agree? And for those that don't think anything of it because they are not the locals, well, remember the gobsmacked example? Enough said. The best thing you can do before you move abroad is take those figures they tout and add 25 to 50% for rental inflation for each year for that country. We're seeing Portugal just soaring in rents. Spain, Greece, France, and Italy are also seeing foreigners from the UK and America traveling there in droves, and all of those hundreds and thousands of travelers, well, they need a rental. But imagine this. Spain orders Airbnb to block nearly 66,000 holiday rental listings. So imagine you invested in a property and turned it into an Airbnb and you were generating a great income from it in one of these popular Spanish hotspots, and now this is happening. There are about 65,000 investors and a huge accommodation corporation very angry with Spain at the moment. Here is what the Spanish ministry is claiming. The ministry said that many of the 65,935 Airbnb listings it had ordered to be withdrawn did not include their license number or specify whether the owner was an individual or a company. No license? Wanting to know if you're a company or an individual? These statements have tax implications implications. It could mean that many of the owners of these rental units will have tax implications or shut down their business. Taxes are not just a revenue stream or an expense. They are also a way to kill a goose laying golden eggs for the wrong people. See? So there's a mass exodus of Americans moving to Spain, Greece, and Portugal. Look at this. In the first quarter of this year, sales of homes to U.S. citizens in Spain rose by a record-breaking 57%. According to the Daily Beast, Americans are leaving the U.S. for Spain in record numbers in order to escape this nightmare in the USA. Bad U.S. Are you thinking of property investment in Spain? Well, here's some of the taxes you will face as a property owner in Spain, and this isn't all of them. Property ownership tax. A 3-bedroom apartment, you'll have to pay around 400 more euros a year, while a large villa, which a lot of people, that's what they buy, is around 2,000 euros at the end of the year. So that's your property ownership tax. Then there's a refuse collection. Then there's a personal income tax. Now, residents in Spain do an annual rental declaration, which would also include income gained by renting their property or imputed income tax if their property remains empty, and will be taxed according to other earnings and personal tax allowances. Did you get that? If your property sits vacant, you still owe a tax as if it had been fully rented. And that's 24% annually, whether it's rented out or not. And there's a wealth tax. Non-resident owners of Spanish property may be obliged to pay wealth tax depending on the value of their Spanish property. There is generally an exemption of 700,000 euros, which is not subject to wealth tax. Residents, on the other hand, will be taxed on their worldwide assets. And then, when you go to sell, you will have a capital gains tax. Did those promoters tell you all that? So you'll have income tax, property tax, wealth tax, VAT tax, accounting expense, audit expense, time and aggravation, and on top of that, you get your behind kicked out by the locals in the end. Well, you heard it said that people have to go and see for themselves. But is it true? Is it necessary? Is it predictable? Is it obvious enough by now? On to our next story. Did you know that people are moving to Europe and living in their car or van because the rents are too high? Is this for real? Moving abroad to live the dream life, living out of your car or van? I mean, you can do this back home. What are we missing here? Something seems terribly wrong. I live in a van in a Tenerife car park because tourists have sent rents sky high. In a car park in the Playa de las Americas resort on Tenerife is a row of vans and cars. Inside these live a group of people, a mix of locals and individuals from other countries who say they are living free lives next to the sea. Well, to each his own, if that's what you like. The part of this story, though, that really stuck out the most for us is that they talked about the sewage going into the ocean, and this in a first world country in Europe. Yikes! They say although their surfing is sometimes blighted by sewage outflows. We've seen this in Ecuador, Panama, Mexico, Italy, and now Tenerife. It must be a global thing. Actually, it's disgusting. And just as we told you about 4 videos back, all the countries are doing it, and now people are actually speaking up about this disgusting act. Have you ever wondered why people all over the world are dying in the oceans from bacteria-eating diseases? This is why. I did some research on this flesh-eating bacteria a couple of years ago, and people with comorbidities and compromised immune systems are more apt to acquire this flesh-eating disease, which is fatal in most cases. If you have open sores on your body, do not go in the water, fresh or salt water. Backwashing sewage from dirty rivers and from dirty city streets is simply bad stewardship of God's creation. British tourists are swimming in sewage as Tenerife faces health disaster. It's dangerous and no one seems to be worried about the consequences. It's an irresponsible attitude from the Canarian government to hide this situation to the tourism industry. It comes after, while in Tenerife earlier this month, the Express was told by a surfer that people see sewage in the water and become ill as a result of discharges with vomiting and suffering from diarrhea. Does this sound like a place you would flock to and then invite mom over for a family swim in the ocean? This is absolutely disgusting. But as we said, it's a global trend and there's more to that story. And we're going to cover that story in another video. We hope you got something out of this. Take care and bye-bye.